at the important things. And the last few days, we've learned some great tools that help us stop, which literally just means we just stop and put a couple of hours in our diary just to make space to think. And also, the next day we talked about, the second day we talked about how we take stock by doing a brain dump or a wipe the mind of everything that's on our mind. Yesterday, I shared two great tools with you, and it didn't matter which order you did them in. One was like doing a personal Kanban, which is leveraging the tools that come out of the lean manufacturing world. Thank you, Toyota. And also a me or not me tool around, let's face it, it was really around delegation. Should I be doing something or should someone else be doing something? And it's interesting, when I was putting the promos together for this program, some of you, it doesn't matter if you didn't, but one of the ads that I did or one of the promotional things that I did last week talked about this little Lego model that it's hard to see, but basically it's off kilter. And the question I asked is, given a series of blocks and this little bridge thing, what would you do to make it even? And can I tell you, just about everyone who I've done, in fact, everyone who I've done this test with has said, grab another block and add it to the bottom. No one thinks about taking a block away to make it even. And I think this is a critical aspect of how we gain control back, how we deal with overwhelm, and how we make sure we're not failing at the important things. Is what are we going to stop doing? What could we take away? What could we remove altogether? Years ago, when I was I was part of the Thought Leaders Business School, founded by the fabulous Matt Church and Peter Cook. And one of the exercises we used to all go together for 3 days, and it was called an immersion, where we would immerse ourselves in our business, we'd learn from each other, we'd have conversations, we'd get coaching and mentoring, and in the end, we'd have a plan for 90 days. And one of the last exercises we do of those 3-day immersions was kind of a spin on stop, start, continue. But one of the things I remembered very clearly was, in order to achieve this thing you want to do in the 90 days, what are you going to stop doing? What are you going to have to just let go of? Now, for me at the time, it was actually pretty easy, because one of the things I used to do on a Saturday morning was I used to get up, and I used to love on Foxtel, I can't remember what channel it was, but they would have Simpsons Super Saturday. And pretty much from 9 in the morning till 12, they would play back-to-back episodes of The Simpsons. And I'm a huge Simpsons fan, and I used to find that a really fun thing to do on a Saturday morning with Emma. Anyway, when I was doing this exercise, I was thinking, what could I give up? Where could I find time? And I decided to give up Simpsons Super Saturday, stop watching it, and I used that time to do thinking and thinking about my business and do planning. And in fact, it was the giving up of the Simpsons Super Saturday that resulted in my book, Engaging Training, because I used that time to begin to pull all of that together. Now, I'm not hugely into being sacrificial. When people say things like no pain, no gain, that doesn't wash with me. I'm about no pleasure, no point. And so I'm not ever going to say to you, give up the things that bring you joy, give up the things that you really love. But I would love you to think about, if you are struggling to find time to do everything you do, is there one thing that if you did it a bit differently, you might get a different result? So Saturday mornings for me was still relaxing. I just didn't get distracted by The Simpsons. And that's something I'd love you to consider. What's something that you could stop doing? Now, those of you with kids, I know during the pandemic, particularly during the Victorian lockdown, which is where most of my colleagues and friends who I was talking to about pandemic were, they said things like, it wasn't just us that loved giving up weekend sports. Our kids also enjoyed the break from it. And I think there's something in us that feels like we have to keep going, on, full, the whole time. And so I'm not going to, again, suggest that your kids give up their weekend sport, but I'd just love you to think about what is something you could just stop doing, kind of related to day one, stop doing or remove that'll help bring your balance back. And don't think that it's, to bring balance back, we have to add things. I often use the example of, You think that your garage is a bit untidy, or your bedroom's untidy, or your wardrobe's a mess, or spare room, or whatever. And the first thing we do is we go out and buy plastic tubs. And so in effect, we're adding things in to our world rather than removing things. Now, sometimes we get the plastic tubs so we can take them to St. Vinny's, all good, but just remind yourself, what are some of the things that you could start thinking about taking away rather than adding to? It is a known thing that when we're presented with a problem, we tend to add, but what design experts know, and people who are into design know, that it is in the taking away that is when you get the elegance in any form of design. And I think we could apply that to our productivity and to our lives, and to beginning to define and design what we want our lives to look like. Now, I just realised I launched into this without doing my usual acknowledgement of country. So I'm going to interrupt myself and do that right now, because I think it's really important that we acknowledge the traditional owners on the land at which I meet and where you are right now. And I want to pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging, and extend that respect to other Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders who may be here right now. More importantly, I'd like to acknowledge the role of the traditional owners and Indigenous people of Australia as the first knowledge creators, and their very deep understanding of the land, the sea and the sky forms. So apologies that I didn't get that in first up. So we're on to day 4, and I know that just 20 minutes and a simple tool may not change your life, but these are the things that I think when we begin to do it consistently and begin to do it over time, you'll find that it does have a tremendous impact. It's always the small things that we do consistently that have the biggest impact. And so if day 1 was around stopping, day 2 was around taking stock, day 3 was around deciding, day 4 is about defining. We're going to define a little bit of what we want our world to look like. And the tool we're going to use today is one called the 5-4-3-2-1 tool. And it comes from, I've adapted it a little bit, but I first read about it in a book by Ryder Carroll called the Bullet Journal book. And so my version of it is slightly different. But what you do is you take an A4 page and you cut it down the middle, as in not cut it, just put a line down the middle. And on the one side is professional and one side is personal. And then you put the numbers 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then do some lines across it. So you in effect divide the page into 5 quadrants on each side. So 10 altogether, I guess. And what we do is the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 stands for 5 years, 4 quarters, 3 months, 2 weeks, and 1 day. I'll just do that again. 5 years, 4 quarters, 3 months, 2 weeks, 1 day. And what we do is we start at the 5-year point and we say to ourselves, in our personal and our professional life, where would we like to be in 5 years? Now, some of you may not be able to answer that. You might be like, 5 years? I can barely think about what I'm doing in the next 5 minutes. And this is why the time to stop becomes really important. And so I have mentioned, I'm pretty sure I mentioned in previous ones, although I've done a lot of webinars this week, so I don't know I've talked about it, but Dr. Jason Fox wrote a book called Game Changers. And he said there are 2 things that help us become motivated, and it's purpose and progress. And so what this exercise does, the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, is it begins to give us purpose about why we get up every day and why we do what we do. Because I believe it's when we feel trapped or choiceless, or we're unclear of where we're headed and what we're doing. And that creates feelings of overwhelm or unhappiness about our current state. So when we can get a really clear description of our future state or our desired state, it helps us manage the here and now that much better. So 5 years from now, if you really can't manage 5 years, I'm happy for you to go 1 year or 2 years out, whatever works for you. But 5 years out, where would you like to be? And you can put things, so in your personal life, it might be things like kids will be through school, successfully through school, or have started their university or college life. Maybe you might have an investment property or paid off a mortgage, or maybe had a big overseas holiday with the whole family. You'd really like to do that in the next 5 years. In your professional life, it might be a promotion. It might be a new job. It might be, you might want to study. So by in the end of 5 years, you've got an additional qualification in your world. It might be to go overseas and have an overseas assignment, all things being equal, and the world opens up appropriately. So what might that be 5 years from now? And then what we do is we go, well, in the next 12 months or next 4 quarters, 12 months, 4 quarters, what do I need to do that will help me begin to achieve that? And then we keep going down. What have I got to do in the next 3 weeks? 3 months. 3 months. What have I got to do in the next 2 weeks? What have I got to do today? And now when we have that list in front of us, it just brings into relief, fine relief or sharp relief, why I'm doing what I'm doing every day. And so even if you have a job that you don't enjoy terribly much, if you know it's leading to a fantastic family overseas holiday to Europe, makes it a little bit more palatable. Or maybe you don't like your job so much, but you know it might be leading you to some study and getting a qualification, and maybe your organisation may be able to help support that by either study leave or whatever, so it might make it a bit more palatable to stay. And so I'm not a huge fan of this notion of do the work you love and you'll never, or do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life, or just work you love and the money will come and all that sort of stuff. I am pretty spooky spiritual. Those of you who know me who are listening, I am a bit spooky spiritual. But for the most part, I'm more around being purposeful. So even if I know where I'm going, even if what I'm doing today isn't that enjoyable, I still know where I'm headed. And that, in some respects, kind of makes it enjoyable. And so to kind of wrap that bit up, I actually believe momentum trumps motivation. And so the 5-4-3-2-1 tool helps create momentum towards where we're really going, as opposed to waking up and hoping that one day you're going to have a spark of motivation, or the gods are going to open up and shine a light on you and there's going to be angels singing and suddenly you're massively motivated to do something. I actually think, in my experience, it is all about momentum. Just starting something, doing something each day, getting stuff done each 2 weeks, getting stuff done each 3 months, getting stuff done each year, towards getting stuff done in 5 years. And it doesn't have to be huge. Like I've used examples that I've heard other people use, but if you in 5 years just want to be leading a peaceful, independent life, I'm good with that too. Totally good with that. Whatever works for you. And so as usual, I've got a tool for you to download, and it's over at my Donna McGeorge Academy. So again, here's the scanner. You can what is it called? A QR code? Holy cow, how did I even forget that, given that the world we're in right now and life is just so damn crazy, and everywhere you go, I feel like we all should have QR codes at our front doors. Welcome, please scan before you come in. And frankly, just saying that out loud probably makes it more likely to come true now that I think about it. So scan the QR code. That'll take you to the Donna McGeorge Academy, where you'll be able to download. And in case you're wondering where all of this is headed, why would Donna just do a free 5-day circuit breaker? Well, it's because where I'm heading to, and I'll tell you more about this tomorrow, is I'm starting a 6-week habit building challenge. So now we've done a bit of a 5-day circuit breaker. I'm going to be doing a 6-week habit builder challenge, where over 6 weeks we decide what habits do we want to build that'll help us be more productive, better at our productivity, and also achieve the things that are more important for us. So that 5-4-3-2-1 plan would be front and center for us for looking at what are the habits we need to build over 6 weeks so that we can begin to achieve the things that we want to achieve and make sure that we are succeeding at the important things in our world. So I'll tell you a bit more about that tomorrow. I've also got one more tool, because don't forget it's day 5 of our challenge. So I've still got another tool for you tomorrow. And tomorrow we're going to talk about how we design our day. So today is about defining, using 5-4-3-2-1. Tomorrow is about designing our time and our day, and really having what would happen if every day we woke up and we designed how every day we wanted our day to be. That's what we're going to be working on tomorrow, so stay tuned. So thank you again for coming along and listening, and also putting up with me being still not quite 100%, getting there. I think another day of rest should do it. So hopefully tomorrow I'll be jumping out of my skin when you see me. All right, thank you so much.